Magistrate for code enforcement for the city of Daytona Beach Shores. The way that we conduct hearings today is the city has the burden of proof. They go first. I imagine all of you have been provided with whatever paperwork they're going to introduce. They have the burden of proof. After they are done, it is your right to cross-examine any of the city's witnesses. And then after that, it is your turn to present whatever you would like. If at any time you're unsure what your options are, just raise your hand and I will tell you, you can do this, you can do that, or you always have the option to do nothing. Okay? All right. The first thing that we have is the approval of minutes. I understand that none of the people that are concerned here with their own events were here for the minutes except for the city staff. Does anybody have any objection to the approval of the minutes? No. Okay. All right, so the way I like to do things is we have a full docket. In fact, I don't think we've ever had this many cases before, but I will take the cases that have representatives first and then the ones where people chose not to show up second. So the first case on the docket is Ocean Court Holdings, LLC. Do we have a representative from them?
Yes, sir.
You. Okay. All right, great. So Ms. Herstein, we'll start with the letter A.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. And I see that 10 years plus one have run, and all of a sudden we have all these signs.
We have Noel Eaton, our city planner, has been working tirelessly, and we have far fewer than we had a year ago. The
Okay.
City Commission extended time and added some more grant money to be used, and so I think we had 64, and now we're down to a much smaller number. There are still a few outside of this, but we can talk about that more when we get into it. I didn't know if you wanted to swear me in at this point.
I do. I just started with the letter A. Let me announce the case. For the record, it is SCDEF 2023-09. It is the property owner is Ocean Court Holdings, LLC. Could you please raise your right hand, Ms. Herstein? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. And ma'am, you are representing Ocean Court,
Yes.
and what is your name, please?
My name is Donna Jollymore, and
Hannah Grafenstein.
Okay.
And the city does have an authorization to answer questions form submitted by the owner for both of these individuals.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd first like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city in the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate's notebook for this case be accepted as evidence, along with the slides which will be shown or are in the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, ladies, have you been provided with the paperwork that the city intended to introduce during today's hearing?
yes.
And do you have a legal objection to any of it not coming into evidence?
No, sir.
Okay. Seeing no legal objection, it will be received into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an initial hearing, and I want to give you just a little background as 4 of our cases are dealing with the same, similar issues. Back in 2012, ordinance number 2012-02 was passed requiring that all pole signs, freestanding signs, and other signs not conforming to the new at that time, new in 2012, monument sign standards were required that they be removed within 10 years. There were sizable matching grants offered to property owners and businesses to replace their non-conforming signs if they so chose. Compliance, however, is simply the removal of the sign, not a new sign being in place. After that 10 years period, and ended April 2022, the City Commission, due to COVID disruptions, mainly granted 1 more year and offered more grant money to those who still had non-conforming signs.
Okay.
April 9th, 2023 was the deadline for non-conforming sign removal. 1 letter was sent in May of 2021, another in September of 2022 to the properties which still had non-conforming signs. And this is in addition to previous mailings, which went out within that 10-year +1 year period. May 3rd, I sent notices of violation to all properties with non-conforming signs. This property was one. And not to all non-conforming signs, basically, but all who had not begun the permitting process for either replacement of the signs or simple removal of the non-conforming signs. This property was sent a notice of violation May 3rd, along with others. And certified mail, unfortunately, was not successful in getting to the property owner, so I hand-delivered a copy to the general manager, Hannah, Achieving Good Service, and their affidavits for that in this package. On June 29th, I reevaluated and re-inspected, and the sign remained, so a statement of violation, request for hearing, and notice of hearing were sent, and hand-delivered the morning of July 3rd, Achieving Good Service. The general manager, Hannah, and Donna, who works for the same property owner but on the other coast of Florida, have been working with the city planner, Noelle Eaton, since Monday to complete an administrative variance application.
Okay.
That has not been reviewed at this point, but should be reviewed soon. That may allow, if approvable, it may allow them to keep the sign as it currently sits. And if that application is not approvable based on our ordinances and what's allowed, then they would also still have the opportunity to seek a full variance for their sign. So,
when do you know if it'll be approved?
we should know within a week.
Okay.
We should know within a week. But even so, I'm going to request a substantial amount of time to allow for these things. And if, for whatever reason, that process has not fully been decided upon after the 60 days that I'm requesting, then that's certainly something that I will highlight in any second compliance hearing.
Okay.
I received authorization, as I stated, from the property owner for both Hannah and Donna to answer any questions you may have, and I do have pictures and then a recommendation for this property.
Okay.
Those are the extent of my pictures. That's the sign as it stood on the upper as of April of this year, and the lower picture.
There are no pictures up. I have one in my book, but what you see on the screens behind me are what's on the screens ahead of me as well.
Can you help me? They're on the screen, but not showing to the larger screens. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
I didn't know I was obviously. We've upgraded our system.
Oh, I can see what an upgrade.
Don't look behind the curtain.
The old system always works, the new system,
We just gotta figure it out as we go.
Thank you, ma'am.
that's not this case.
Nope. Angie? Is there a different way to advance slides, or? Is it a Monday? It feels like a Monday. Thank you. If I expand it, will I be able to advance? Okay.
Okay. That's a considerably better picture than I was provided. Why is it taken so far away?
That was an overview of the property, and then these pictures are added
Okay.
in yesterday. So the top picture shows what it looked like in April, and then the bottom picture is just the re-inspect picture at the end of June showing that it's still in place. And there was only the one violation, and it's the current sign, though it is arguably a monument-style sign, it's non-conforming with the regulations in size, a couple of the dimensions, at least height. It's also within the setback, and those are potentially issues that can be addressed by an administrative variance. So that was fully submitted, that administrative variance was fully submitted on Tuesday, and then it will be reviewed shortly. So based on that, we are recommending that, sorry about that. The recommendation is for an order number 7, that the property owner, Ocean Court Holdings LLC, be given 60 days to correct, which is on or before September 12th, 2023, including obtaining approved final inspections on any and all required permits, and pay an administrative fee of $149.09 in the event that the respondent does not comply with the order and bring the sign into compliance in one way or another. A fine of $150 per day would be imposed for each and every day the violation continues. And that is our request. And there is an affidavit, of course, for the administrative fees in this packet, along with affidavits for all of the other facts mentioned regarding service.
Okay. Are you sure you're done with your case?
Well,
Why does the sign not comply with the ordinance?
there are a number of reasons that it doesn't match, but the violation was as listed. The Ocean Court Monument style sign is non-conforming, and it remains in place beyond the 10-year period, and then the additional extension of 1 year granted by resolution. That's the violation as listed.
I understand, but why is it non-conforming?
It's too tall, and it's within the setback,
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that,
among other things.
among other things. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
It's Jallimore
Yes, sir.
or Raffenstein, do either of you have, I would prefer only one of you act. Do either of you have a question or any questions for Ms. Herstein?
Not any questions, no, sir.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, is there anything that either of you would like to present?
I just, yes, sorry.
Come on up. I don't let people yell from the bleachers.
Okay.
All right, could you please raise your right hand?
Oh, sure.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay. What would you like to talk about?
Just, I guess, the properties were given 10 years to make the changes. Unfortunately, we were just made aware of the sign, the issues with the sign on some time in between May 3rd and May 19th. Our company purchased the hotel back in June of 2022.
Okay.
So any previous communication between the city and the property owner, the current ownership was not made aware of. I guess something was mailed back in September. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened with that. That went to our corporate office in Hollywood, and the information was never passed to us as a property management and everything. But on behalf of the hotel, we do want to be in compliance with whatever city ordinances. We do want to be fantastic community partners. We just, quite honestly need more time. We were just made aware of the issues, and since Hannah was in communication with the city since mid-May and everything, she's communicated with them. She's contacted the sign company trying to find out what needs to be done, and if our variance isn't approved, I don't know if 60 days is enough on our end, just in her communication with the sign company and everything, because they're not even sure what needs to change. And then obviously, doing the work, and if the sign would have to move, that's going to involve rerunning electric and pavement and, everything else. It's a little bigger project than just simply swapping out the sign. But That being said, we do want to be compliant, and, if the variance doesn't get approved, we will make the necessary changes, and hopefully, if we do need more time or can show you that work is in progress, that you guys would work with us.
I would rather give you more time on the front than try to recover days on the back.
Okay.
And I have people all the time that say 60 days easy, and having sat here, I know you can't get certain things done in 60 days. So how long do you reasonably think it will take you?
What did the sign company say?
The sign company wanted this hearing to happen first to know what exactly needs to change, what you were looking for in specific.
I would say, 4 months? I think that would be reasonable. I mean,
So 120
Yes,
days.
sir.
Okay.
If the variance.
So that would bring us to November 12th. Okay. All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Herstein, any questions?
No, Your Honor, we would just ask that it be November 10th, which is 120 days and not falling on a weekend. So
Okay,
the difference of 2 days.
I just added 60 to, all right. Okay. I appreciate the fact that you're being realistic, because I don't like setting fines on people because they couldn't get a window in time
Right.
even though they ordered it. So, all right, I appreciate it. I'm going to find the violation. I'm going to ask that you pay $149.09 within 30 days. Can you do that?
Of course.
Okay. And that you come into compliance by November 10th, 2023, or $150 per day, fine attaches thereafter. Yes, please. Okay?
Yes, I
All right.
appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You can stay or you're free to leave. All right. Sir, what matter are you here on?
3150 South Atlantic Avenue,
Okay, let me see which one that is.
58.
$31.50. Okay, that's letter E. So we'll jump to letter E, and then we'll come back and recover B. So, case number SCDEF 2023-05, and you are whom?
Mike Bretzel, the real estate broker with Professional Property Management.
Okay.
Your Honor, respectfully, I do not have an authorization to represent form unless he has brought one with him. We ask that it be delivered to our office so we can check it out and make sure that it's signed by an appropriate party, but we have not been supplied.
Okay. Mr. Bressel, what is your relationship to the property?
I'm the real estate broker with the property management company that manages the property. And I just wrote that down to make sure that form gets sent. I thought that was sent last time I was in here. I apologize.
That was a different case.
I know, I thought, oh, so you need one for each case. There was one sent. for each
Yes.
case. I apologize. I'll make sure that's done, and I'm not going to have.
Was there one filed in the previous case when we had this property?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it was for Mr. Bressel?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to accept you representing the property owner. I ask that you please within, I guess 7 days is reasonable. By next Thursday, please file a permission to represent. The fact that you've done it before,
Respectfully, Your Honor, we just ask that he not be allowed to represent the property, but that he be able to answer any questions that
Right.
you have as per our attorney.
yes, well, I don't expect him to say, yes, we agree, and throw the property owner
Thank you, Your Honor.
into the lurch, so to speak. But, for instance, how long it may take if you're found to be in violation to correct these, I will take your best estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? All right, Ms. Herstein?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the code enforcement special magistrate notebook for this case be accepted as evidence, along with the slides which are about to be shown in the PowerPoint program, or which may not be shown in full.
Okay, I'm going to accept them as evidence. Mr. Bressel, were you provided with copies?
Yes, I was, thank you.
Okay, I'm not going to give you a chance to object, but,
Not necessary.
okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an initial hearing for a property with 24 violations on a total of 8 buildings which sit on the property. One is not a habitable space, it's more like a shed, but there are 8 total buildings. And many of these violations are repeated throughout the property.
Okay. I'm familiar with this property from the last time.
This property, yes, exactly, is one that we wrote last year, right after Hurricane Ian, for specific plumbing and drywall issues in the units. We did not go further to write hurricane damage at that time. It was so soon in that period that we kept to the issues that were most egregious to the tenants at the time, and with the idea of coming back if, you know, as with all the properties, if hurricane damage wasn't restored. The drywall, okay, that was for drywall issues in the units and plumbing, and one exterior plumbing issue too. The north neighbor made a change. They removed a fence that they had in place, which, sorry, showing you all my hidden slides. You don't want to see those.
Okay, I
I've
saw
already got them.
the aerial view.
Yeah, and that's just a way to number the property, the number the buildings in a way that we could communicate simply. The units are numbered, but there are letters and numbers both, and it's just a simpler way for us to communicate effectively about the property.
Okay, who took down the fence?
The north neighbor.
Okay, the one with the little, on the aerial, there's a little building directly across from number 5. Would that be the north neighbor?
That whole property that you can see to the north, including that structure that you mentioned and the building at the top left, that's all part of the north neighbor. So
Okay.
that fence line extended, it didn't start immediately at A1A, but extended about 30 feet back and all the way toward the back of the property.
Okay.
Here's a picture of that fence back in 2018, showing that it fully blocked a lot of view of anything that was happening on that property. And when the fence was removed, there were some concerns about specifically a wall that I will show you that is not structurally sound. And they were concerned that it was going to possibly create a problem for people in there.
Little low white line?
No.
Is that the wall?
Your Honor, that's where it starts, and that is also, when we talk about that north wall, it is also in disrepair. It's also, its appearance is not great, but you'll see with pictures that I show you that it gets to a much taller block wall.
Okay.
That is leaning against a pole currently. I inspected, I generated a notice of violation organized by buildings at the time. Good service was achieved to the registered agent and to the property owner. We had an electrical permit issued to rectify one of the building's electrical violations, and I do note that when we go through violation by violation, there has been an electrical permit. They have done some of the work, but that has not been inspected to this point.
Right, I
So
saw that.
I hesitate to say that it's 100% rectified, although it does appear to be rectified. And there was also a roofing permit obtained to satisfy some of the building's roofing issues. No inspections have been called in for that at this point either, though we have observed that some work has been done. On June 29th, I found that most of the violations remained, though some of the work had been done under the roofing permit, as I said, and the electrical meter had been replaced on building 5, though not inspected. Also, one of the violations dealt with building materials on the site without an associated permit. Theoretically, one of those 2 permits can allow for those materials to, or cover the materials being on site, but it's impossible to match up with materials that were there before. Are they still usable? They were sitting out in the elements. It's hard to know. So that's something that we can address when it's time for compliance. And
Okay.
the statement of violation, request for hearing and notice of hearing were sent July 3rd and were also posted on the property. Both certified mail pieces were received, and posting satisfied the notice requirements. I had not heard from anyone representing the property until this morning at, in this room, Your Honor. I would like to show you pictures to quickly go through the list of violations, which are A through X. Even though there are 56 total violations, when you deal with, I tried to write in a way that was most helpful for somebody rectifying it and that would convey what's happening. And you'll tell me if
Okay.
you want me to go faster or slower, or, so basically I'm showing you violations A through X. I've only given you one picture so as not to have to double or triple the amount of slides of the initial inspection, just showing one instance.
That's fine.
And then because this is happening on this particular one on buildings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7, I'm showing you where that falls on each of these pictures. So please stop me if you want to see something further. I can blow up these pictures as well if we need to. So violation A, building's required trust sign is faded and not easily legible. And there are, you see the pictures of the 6 different places that's happening. Violation B, exterior door openings were abandoned without permits, north building faces. This is something that we couldn't see. This was behind the fence previously and not visible until said fence was removed by the adjoining property owner. You can see again just the one picture in the upper left.
So they just sealed indoors.
Correct, Your Honor. And that's, it appears to be plywood that's been fastened and painted. It does not appear to be super recent, but at the same time, the drywall or the plywood is not warping or showing signs of significant wear, so I don't think that it was an extended time ago. However, unfortunately, that's not an acceptable method for abandoning a door opening. It needs to be blocked in under an engineer or architect's suggestion as to how, and signed and sealed drawings do need to be submitted for that.
Is there any requirement by the city that there be 2 openings?
I asked
This
this
type of dwelling?
question of the building official and was told that based on the size of the dwellings that it was not required. However, that's something that we could also bring him up if he feels the need to add to that.
Getting a no. Okay.
Violation C, fascia unprotected by paint in places, buildings 1, 5, and 6. And I have continued this thread throughout with the one inspection, initial inspection picture, and then each of the buildings referenced a picture of at least one instance of that happening on the building. If somebody were to just go and fix where these pictures show, it's not going to rectify all of the places that fascia is unprotected on buildings 1, 5, and 6.
I don't need to see the same thing over and over and over.
Violation D, shall I continue?
Please continue.
Violation D, gable end wood unprotected by paint in places, buildings 5 and 6. Violation E, wood unprotected by paint in places around AC units, building 4, 5, 6, and 7. Violation F, debris in the form of deteriorated building elements south of the building, and that's at building 1. If you look at the upper left picture, you can see it was all on the ground. Someone came along and did pick it up from the ground, but they just threw it on top of the wall at the south end of that property, and that's what that picture shows underneath on that wall and possibly on their neighbor's property as well. Violation G, open storage of building materials not covered by active permits east of building. That's at building 2. You can see that those building materials were there back in April. You can see they're still very lightly visible in the very back to the right of that vehicle, that white van that's there. But as I understand, some of those or most of those materials were utilized under permit 2023-0968. Obtained on May 10th. Debris, violation H, debris in the form of deteriorated building elements south of the building. That is not what that's showing whatsoever. I'll have to get back
I was
to
gonna say,
that.
that's not.
Yeah, that's not at all. That's a pretty picture of a site. We will get back to violation H. Thank you. And violation I, paint is discolored in places around the building. Buildings 1, 2, 2.5, which is the one that I referred to as the shed, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There is just a lot of discolored paint. Some is peeling, some is discolored with rust, some by elements, etc.
It's remarkably consistent from building to building, almost identical.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Well, it's
In this case,
deteriorating at the same rate.
There is consistency. Violation J, unit doors are discolored, buildings 3, 4, and 7. You can see pictures of that at the follow-up still not having been addressed. Violation K, door to unit 3 is deteriorated with a hole at the bottom. This was actually observed back at a visit with a tenant when we were addressing the shower issues and the tile and the plumbing that was unpermitted. It was not included because it was observed afterward, and we were trying to target, again, this was directly after the storm, we were trying to target the specific issues happening with the drywall, the tile, the shower, so it was not included then, but there's no reason not to include it now. I have those pictures, there's a close-up. This tenant was concerned that it was certainly big enough for any kind of vermin, smaller vermin to fit through. You can see in the follow-up picture, I put a little orange arrow at the bottom left picture. I put the upper pink arrow pointing to the gap at the top. That's how you can kind of match up that door, one with the other. You can also see that it's labeled door number 3 on that building. It appears, I'm not able, even when I blow that up, I'm not able to see that gaping hole. It looks like something may have been placed over it, but I'm not certain that it's rectified to with anything other than maybe a piece of flashing placed over it, which is not a suitable fix. But I am trying to demonstrate with the gap at the top that that's not a replaced door, and even if it is a replaced door, there was no permit obtained to replace the door.
Okay.
Violation L, soffit deteriorated and missing in places, buildings 1, 2.5, 3, 5, and 6. Violation M, fascia deteriorated and missing in places, buildings 1 and 3. Violation N, I see what, oh no, this is right. Violation N, roof vent turbine rusted and broken off, building 2.5. My pink square is not over but you can see it just
I can
to the
see it
left
next to it.
of my beautiful pink square. Violation O, electrical weatherhead missing from service mast, no drip loop in place. That's at building 5. This is something that was permitted, but again, and the repairs appear to have been done, but it has not had an inspection called in for it. So hopefully that will be done soon and we can sign off on it. But as of yet, it has not been. Violation P, electrical service mast broken at meter can, building 6. You can see that looks much now as it did back in April. And the replacement of this service mast was not included in the electrical permit for building 5. I don't know why.
Okay.
Violation Q, window opening not properly abandoned, south building face, building 2. This was originally a window opening. You can see the sill. It appears to have been mostly abandoned and then filled in with wood, unprotected wood it appears. You can see in that right-hand picture, and with an AC unit at the top. It's not properly abandoned. Violation R, roof shingles missing in places, buildings 1 and 4. You can see not a ton of shingles, but as we were there describing what violations existed, that was part of the violations. There are definitely worse, but this is in violation as well. Violation S, roof in disrepair, covered by tarps, building 2, 3, and 4. Now, I believe that building 2, the bottom picture, the top picture, top left, is of building 2 mainly, and then the below picture shows what it looked like on June 29th. They have done some work on that roof and have taken off the tarp. However, it has not been inspected yet, as I stated. Building 3, they did remove the tarp. You can still see it looks a little fuzzy as it turns the corner there. You can still see some fuzzy tarp remnants up there, but they haven't done anything to rectify that scenario yet. And the building 4, you can still see that the back side of it, the north side of it, is tarped still. Violation T, gutter not discharging water over 12 inches from building, northeast corner of building. And I did speak with Mr. Bretzel about this one this morning before the hearing. We talk about ways that he may work to address this. They were concerned about getting water intrusion into the building, which they had apparently sustained, but this is not a suitable fix for that situation. Violation U, wall is not structurally sound, cracked and or leaning in places, and this applies to 2 different walls, the wall along the north and west property lines, 2 different walls. So bottom left picture, that's of the west property line, which we weren't really able to see that view before. You can see large cracks along the joints. It does not appear to be falling, but it does not appear to be structurally sound. And then of more concern, if you start with the picture on the top right, that is where you asked about that short little wall along the north property line. This is the place at which that becomes a taller wall. You can see that it is, hopefully I've conveyed the
Really leaning over, yeah.
You can also see the picture below it, how the other side, the further west side of it, as it abuts the property to the west, is leaning against that post, and that's what is currently holding that wall up.
That's not a telephone pole?
I hesitated to call it that. I did originally, and then I don't have any pictures of what it looks like above, but it probably is. I can't confirm that.
Okay.
It's not great, whatever kind of pole it is, though. Violation V, wall is not maintained to present a cared-for aesthetic appearance. Walls along the north, south, and west property lines fit that category. Obviously, that's not our priority. The structural soundness is our priority, but we do want them to bring those walls into compliance as far as appearance goes too. Violation W, exterior light fixture using interior bulbs, southwest corner. That's exactly as it was back in April. And violation X, lamp post leaning, paint chipped and rusted through in places east of the building. You can see it's far in the back. I did not have a great picture, a closer picture, though I did observe it happening back in April, or it would not have ended up on my inspection report. But you can clearly see what's happening with it at this point, or as it was back in June.
Okay.
We are recommending 2 different dates for compliance for this property. There are a few that I would shift to the life safety category, including things like and which are simpler fixes, theoretically. The truss sign replacement, so basically the truss sign, the walls, and the electrical issues we've included in, those are violations A, F as in Frank, K, O, P, U, and W. We're calling those the life safety issues that we'd like addressed sooner, and then we're prepared to give a longer time frame for the additional violations. Based on the testimony given and the evidence presented today, we're hoping that you will find this property in violation of the violations A through X, and that you give until September 12th, 2023, which is 60 days, to correct the violations that I just stated. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7 violations that I just stated, and that you give until January 15th, 2024, which are the remainder of the 24 violations, on or before, that they be corrected on or before January 15th, 2024. For both of those dates, we request that you include obtaining approved final inspections and all required permits in compliance. And the reason that we're granting a longer time frame is that the door abandonment in particular is going to require the assistance of an engineer or architect to draw plans. They're not probably complicated plans. At the same time, those engineers and architects right now are quite busy.
Right.
So we're prepared to, for some of the aesthetic issues and that issue, to let it have more time, significantly more time.
Okay. I have no problem with the additional time. This is quite the project.
Thank you, Your Honor. We request that an administrative fee of $162.89 be paid, and there is an affidavit in the packet for that amount. And we request, if the respondent does not comply with the order and meet either or both of the deadlines, that a fine of $250 per day be imposed. I did want to go back and address H, because I don't think I properly gave you H. H is on the list of things that could be rectified.
That was the exhaust pipe, which you showed prematurely.
I showed you an exhaust pipe, but I don't
Two.
think that is, 1 second, please, Your Honor.
Okay. I thought you had,
No, I did. Okay, I sure did.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Bressel,
Yes.
you've heard what the city has alleged, and this looks like, as I said, quite a project. Do you think that this can be complied with by September 12th and January 15th?
The 60 days sounds terrific on everything. The walls, because we're gonna need to get someone to permit that, and I have a question about the walls.
The wall is V, which you'd have until January 15th to take care of.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was gonna ask, just ask for 90 days on the walls and the abandoned rear doors.
We're giving you more than 90 days.
Right, perfect.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Just a question about the wall. It looks like it's really just a fence, not a retaining wall. Is there any problem with taking that down to ground level?
The wall itself, we have asked, the two walls, the west and the north, we've asked that the structural soundness of them be addressed within 60 days, because, as I said, the one on the north property line is leaning into the, or almost, if it falls, it'll be on the neighbor's property.
Right.
So we're asking, you could address that
By removing
violation by removing that wall.
Okay.
Correct.
Because it's really just a privacy wall. It used to be behind a privacy fence, so that's why you say now you see it. So we can take down that privacy wall.
The way that it appears is not something that we're asking to be addressed until the 6-month mark. The structural soundness of it, though, is something that that's why we're requesting the 2 dates, really, because it needs to be addressed sooner.
If that can be done by removing it.
Yes.
If that can be, yes, that'd be great.
Okay,
I'll cover that with the owner, but I'm sure that's what his idea is.
all right.
Just take it down.
That's the only question I have for you. All right, so I'm going to order, order number 7, that violations A, F, K, O, P, U, and W be completed before September 12th, 2023. That means permitted and inspected, not just finished,
Yes, sir.
okay? And then B, C, D, E, G, H, I, J, L, M, N, Q, R, S, T, V, and X by January 15, 2024. And you're gonna get a copy of this. I don't expect you to write down what,
I got you 100%.
in fact, I'll give you the copy that I have right now.
Can I just ask one other question?
Sure.
The pipe, the picture that you had of the pipe, the deteriorated pipe, it looks like an exhaust pipe. That's the one that you weren't labeled right. That's gonna need to be done by a plumber. That's why I was asking for 90 days on that instead of 60, because as you know, the plumber's moving very slow.
I think you're being given,
H, you're being given till
Okay.
January 15th.
I wasn't sure. Those are the
Yes.
only 3 things I had written down.
Okay.
Thank you.
The administrative fee is $162.89. Can your owner pay that in 30 days?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to order 30 days. If these violations are not completed by September 12th and January 15th, respectively, it would attach at $250 per day.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay? Ms. Herstein, is there any problem with me giving him the copy that was prepared for me?
I don't believe so, Your Honor, because you basically issued that exact order. If there's any deviance from the order that you issued.
There is none.
What's on the paper, then I don't have the problem.
Okay,
Perfect, thank you.
that way you don't have to
Yep, I've gone through.
rely on
I've gone through all the photos.
getting
and
it
laid
correct. Okay?
out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Back on track, we will now go to B, which is Sunoco Retail LLC, case CDEF 2022-28. Well, this room does appear to be empty. I still have to ask, is there a representative for Sunoco? Hearing nothing. Ms. Herstein?
Yes.
I'm a little surprised a company like them didn't send somebody.
Which I will put on the record, I'll go ahead and do it now. The representative who is working with Sunoco, works for Sunoco, and would be handling the sign, had an accident and broke both of his feet at the beginning of July. So
Okay,
he-
I did circle
send
that
an
in there.
email and say, we discussed it ahead of time. I told him that I plan to ask you to grant 60 days to correct.
Okay,
We discussed about the posting of the gas prices, and he is aware that he has another vehicle. If they don't get it done in 60 days, they still have to take it down, but they could post their gas prices in an alternative way for another 30 days by getting a simple portable sign printed.
that's Florida statute, not just city ordinance, right? Okay,
So we try to certainly be aware of that kind of thing when giving timeframes to correct, et cetera. This is an initial hearing for 3 violations. This case also includes a non-conforming sign, but this non-conforming sign was in repair last year, and that's when the notice of violation was generated.
okay,
They spent months working out what they wanted to put in place instead. Again, with the gas prices, we did very clearly in our notice of violation say, by the way, you have these issues with and violations with the sign, but the sign can only be there for a specific number of months, so consider that while you're deciding what to do with the sign.
okay.
And they went back and forth and asked a number of questions for months. They did, however, and I'll show you when we look at the violations, they did address the dumpster enclosure rusting violation immediately
Oh,
to
good.
show that they were not just sitting on the entire issue, that they were trying to work out how to handle the sign best. Hurricanes Ian and Nicole, so basically, yeah, Hurricanes Ian and Nicole hit our area. These signs took a back seat to supporting restoration efforts. And then the April 9th deadline for sign removal came. So this sign having remained, I sent, using the same notice of violation that I sent, because those issues are still non-compliant, along with the dumpster enclosure being rusted again, and I'll show you pictures of that in just a second.
So they fixed it and it's since rusted again?
Right.
Okay,
So before the case could be closed and, with becoming fully compliant, it rusted again, and I'll show you pictures of that. I sent the statement of violation, request for hearing and notice of hearing. Good service was achieved both by certified mail and by hand delivery to the business owner at the property. I spoke with 2 property reps on July 7th and included the email exchange in this packet, in your notebook, back and forth. Like I said, he had the gentleman who is responsible for the sign had an accident which resulted in broken bones. He requested 60 days to rectify the sign issue, and the city has no issue with granting those 60 days. Pictures and a recommendation. This is violation A, if you will. I just have 3 slides for this. Violation A, dumpster enclosure doors, posts, and stays are rusted, especially along the door bottoms. You can see it originally last year at the, in that top picture, and you can see it again in the bottom right picture most clearly that it's back to pretty much the way that it was. So they're looking at a couple ways to to address that better, or for a longer lasting, in a longer lasting way. Beachside is a little tough for that, but they're working on it. And they have also said that if you do grant the 60 days, that they would take care of this issue sooner, that they're not planning to wait to address that at all. Violation B, pylon sign posts are not in good repair. They're rusted and delaminating in places. You can see that it looks the same or worse in the bottom two pictures as it did in the top left picture last year. In violation C, pylon sign electrical box is not rust free. You can see that that has also progressed and gotten worse in this time frame.
Okay.
The recommendation for this property, Your Honor, is that you grant, that you find the property in violation with an order number 7, that you grant the property owner until September 12th, 2023 to correct, including having obtained approved final inspections on all required permits, and that if they are not compliant, a fine of $175 per day will be imposed. We also request that they reimburse an administrative fee of $162.89, and their affidavits in your notebook for that amount.
Okay, I've had a chance to examine everything in the notebook. I find the violations, A, B, and C, order that they be rectified by September 12, 2023, including final inspections and all required permits, or a fine of $175 per day will attach. Administrative fees of $162.89 within 30 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, brings us to C, which is Daytona Ocean Investment Corp., case number SCDEF 2023-11. Is there any representative here? Hearing no representative, which surprised me because in the notebook itself, it said the owner would be here to tell me about his plans for the property, and I was a little surprised he didn't show. Ms. Hurstein?
Thank you, Your Honor. This
Another non-conforming sign.
is a picture, yes, this is a picture of the overall of the hotel itself. Again, this is an initial hearing. This sign is outside the allowable dimensions and is not a monument-style sign. It's too tall. It is not a monument-style sign, and it may or may not have issues with its closeness to the right-of-way.
In the comments, it said he'd explained that he wants to knock the entire property down. Has there been a demolition permit pulled, or?
No, Your Honor. There have been verbal plans expressed. I'm not certain whether there have been any conceptual site plan submitted. I can't answer that question, but I don't believe that anything is currently in the works to move that forward, but he has expressed it at a variety of times that he does plan by the end of the year to remove the whole hotel and put something new in its place. But I don't have any clear evidence as to that taking place moving forward.
I guess you can start with the sign.
The sign, notice of violation was sent May 3rd, good service was achieved. June 29th, the re-inspection, the sign remained, and so statement of violation request for hearing and notice of hearing were sent. Good service was achieved, also with hand delivery, both hand delivery and certified mail. And
Okay, well, just looking at the picture, I can tell this one doesn't conform. So I'm going to find violation A has been proven by the city, has to be rectified before September 12th, 2023, or $150 per day will attach, $149.09 in administrative fees within 30 days. Well, that was easy.
thank you, Your Honor.
And finally, D. Holiday Shores Condominium Association Incorporated, SCDEF 2023-12.
I'd like to ask.
Another sign case.
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the code enforcement special magistrate notebook for this case be accepted as evidence along with the slides which are about to be shown or may not need to be shown but are in the packet. And I also would like to go back and make sure that I introduced evidence for cases B and C because I'm not certain that I did. And
No, I think we just looked at the pictures. Everything will be accepted into evidence that was in the magistrate's book for all cases, hearing no objection.
And also the PowerPoint slides which were created and shown for the cases.
Right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And then this sign with the visible pipe in the middle, on page 5D-2, right there.
This is the sign, yes.
Okay, well,
Again, non-conforming sign, it's a pole-style sign, it's too tall. Again, there may be issues with.
well, the pole is actually visible in this one, so I appreciated this picture because then I understood what you meant by pole sign. Okay, and nothing?
Actually, not nothing, no.
Okay.
The pole sign had the faces blown out during one of the hurricanes. The property actually has not been able to reopen since the hurricanes. They had extensive damage on the east side of the property too, which has been, I think, taking more of their attention than this particular aspect. They did receive a generated notice of violation. It was sent on May 3rd. Ultimately, good service was achieved by posting for this property. When the sign remained on June 29th, I generated and sent the statement of violation request for hearing and notice of hearing to a different address than the one that was not successful the first time. So it was for the president as opposed to a registered agent.
Right, I had a look at the Secretary of State filing with the variety of officers and everything, and I saw the picture of the posting. Have you had any response from anyone on this?
Yes, I have been in contact with a gentleman named Wes Sattenfield, and very nice gentleman. I expect that, well, let me tell you that he has already removed the bulk of this sign.
Okay,
So there are a couple things. The sign was taken down at the end of last week. About 2.5 feet of the pole was kept in place, and they explained why they hoped to do that, but so that it's not technically compliant with that aspect of it. Also, the electrical permit to cap off the existing electrical connections, while the application was submitted and the owner has sent back his signed notarized signature for his portion of it, we still, and I did not check this morning, but we still had not received that from the contractor. In any event, that electrical permit is still also to be fully submitted, obtained, and finalized as well. So
Okay.
while they definitely have taken steps and they have indicated a desire to do so, they're not quite there yet, unfortunately.
all right. Based upon the evidence, particularly the photographs, I'm going to find a violation of A, order that it be rectified, meaning obtaining final inspections and all required permits by September 12th, 2023, or $150 per day attaches, $149.09 in administrative fees to be paid within 30 days. And I appreciate that. I always, when you said that they have not been able to reopen, I can understand that they probably were worried about the structural integrity of the building as opposed to a sign, but I'm glad that you've had contact with them, so we're not, beating a dead horse, so to speak. All right. Does anybody have any other business?
I'd like to put on the record that the stated next hearing date of August 17th is incorrect. It will be August 24th.
Right, yes. The next meeting of the Code Enforcement Magistrate will be August 24th in this room at 9 a.m. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Went much quicker than I had anticipated. When I read this book, I was like,